Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Pongam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Yat Kripa. I messed up that verse. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pongam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. By the grace of Guru and Krishna, we can do anything, is the translation of that verse. Okay, thank you all so much for being here again. We are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
16.
Chapter 16. Chapter 16 entitled Krishna chastises the Kaliya serpent. I hear, but the volume is low. Let me go ahead and see if I can fix that on my... There you go. That should be better. Better? Great. So my Zoom audio settings does that often. It just kind of lowers. Maybe it can tell that I'm so naturally loud and obnoxious that it's just like there's an automatic setting whenever I come on the Zoom that it just has to lower my microphone. Okay, so we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, entitled Krishna Chastises the Kaliya Serpent. This chapter, our beloved Srila Prabhupada had already departed for the spiritual world by the time that this was being translated, and so this is work carried on by his disciples. And we are in verses 47 through 50. 47 through 50. So I'll go ahead and share the screen here, and we'll look at these together. Right, 47 through 50. Okay, Hare Krishna. And as always, I welcome people to please share in the chat any thoughts, questions, realizations that come up for you. And also, I love to have a more participatory class. At least I try to. Sometimes I say that and then I end up just talking the whole time. So forgive me. But I also love to hear realizations and sharings. And it's a beautiful opportunity for us to share as well. We learn when we share. Sometimes we think we have to have something profound to say or something groundbreaking or something that no one's ever heard before. And that idea is antithetical to the concept of bhakti itself, because bhakti is the offering of love to Krishna. And there's nothing that Krishna hasn't seen before or heard before or experienced before in terms of what we're able to offer him. The only thing he hasn't received is your specific flavor of love, and each devotee's specific flavor of love. And so our words are never going to impress Krishna. Our song and our melodies and our voice and our mridanga playing and kartal playing is never going to impress Krishna. The way that we dress the deities, or the way that we clean, or the way that we manage is never going to impress Krishna. But the mood in which we do it can actually move his heart. Bhakti is... Pure bhakti, as described by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are 6 qualities given of bhakti. Anybody know those 6 qualities of pure bhakti that are given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? We share these sometimes.
Rarely achieved.
Sorry?
Rarely achieved.
Rarely achieved. Rarely achieved. Sur durlabha. It's very hard to achieve. Yes. So the Rupa Goswami describes pure bhakti. It's quite interesting that there is this idea of like, what is bhakti itself, and describing pure bhakti. He describes there are 6 qualities. He mentions, let's see if I can remember all 6. He mentions what's Shubhada Moksha Lagutakrit Sur Durlabha, that it creates all auspiciousness. It makes liberation seem very small. Klesh Agni Shubhada, it removes all distress. It creates all auspiciousness. Moksha Lagutakrit, that it makes liberation seem very small. Surdurlabha, it's very rare and hard to achieve. It's condensed bliss, and it's Krishna Akarshani. It attracts Krishna himself. So Krishna is all attractive, but pure bhakti attracts even Krishna. Krishna is subservient to the love. That's why we say Krishna is subservient to the love of his devotees. That's why when you go to Man Mandir in Vrindavan, and you might see a picture of Krishna begging forgiveness from Srimati Radharani because he made her upset by not favoring her properly, and he made a mistake, and he, sometimes plays tricks and gets a little mischievous, and sometimes he goes a little too far, and he upset Radharani, and he was begging her forgiveness, and the other gopis and the Sakis, friends of Srimati Radharani, were trying to. There's a beautiful Krishna of them taking Krishna's hand and taking Radharani's hand and trying to bring them together, saying, Radha, just please take his hand. He's really, really sorry. I know that he won't do it again. And so, because Krishna becomes subservient to the love of his devotees, and no one embodies pure love of Krishna more than Srimati Radharani. So, all that to say, we don't have to worry about being, extraordinarily profound or unique when we share. We just have to be sincere. And when we do that, Krishna becomes pleased, and through that pleasure of Krishna, we become blessed with realization. So our service sometimes is to humble ourselves, to speak even when we feel we got nothing to say, to share even when we feel that we're not unique or profound, and to show up even when it's sometimes uncomfortable, because in so doing, we get over our ego. We realize the genuine, true aspect of bhakti, which is less about what it looks like externally and more about the mood that we are developing internally. And what really pleases Krishna is that sincere endeavor of heart. So, all that to say, I hope you can share and be part of this conversation. Chapter 16, verse 47, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. Avyakrita viharaya sarva vyakrita siddhaye hrishikesha namastu testu munaye mauna shilane. O Lord Rishikesh, master of the senses, please let us offer obeisances unto you, whose pastimes are inconceivably glorious. Your existence can be inferred from the necessity for a creator and revealer of all cosmic manifestations. But although your devotees can understand you in this way, to the non-devotees you remain silent, absorbed in silent satisfaction. Okay, so who's speaking here? Anybody want to get us up to speed?
I think it's the Nagapatnis.
The Nagapatnis, the wives of Kaliya, because Krishna is subduing the Kaliya serpent, and he's really giving it to him. And the wives of Kaliya, the serpent, speak up, and they are trying to pardon their dear husband, and calling upon Krishna's merciful nature. A couple of things here. One is that there's a very beautiful point about the nature of it. It's interesting. It kind of relates a little bit to what I was just sharing about what moves Krishna's heart and how Krishna reveals himself. There are many, many verses throughout Bhagavad Gita, and of course we learn in Srimad Bhagavatam also that Krishna only reveals himself to his devotees. Bhakti Mama Vijananti, in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that only by devotional service can one understand me as I am. Krishna reveals that he's never... Kunti Devi early in the Bhagavatam describes how Krishna is like an actor on stage, that unless you understand Krishna, like she can understand, she can see Krishna through her devotion. We don't always see Krishna. And I think also we don't see Krishna like, okay, see Krishna face to face, Krishna dancing in front of us, but also see the way that Krishna is working in our lives. And so when we are confused about why something's happening, when we feel like Krishna has forsaken us or abandoned us, or when we get confused about why something's happening to me, we have to, or we are all striving to see the ways in which Krishna is showing up in our life. And as devotees, the hallmark of a devotee is that we are always looking to see Krishna's hand in every situation. We're looking to find Krishna's hand in situation. The devotional approach to life is that I keep faith that Krishna is here, because Krishna is everywhere. And so your existence can be inferred from the necessity for a creator and revealer of all cosmic manifestations. But although your devotees can understand you in this way, to the non-devotees you remain silent, absorbed in self-satisfaction. Ever feel like Krishna's checked out? Ever feel like, why would Krishna have any interest in my life? Ever feel like Krishna's got it all, what does he need me for? Ever feel like I would be easy to just forget? That's remain silent, absorbed in self-satisfaction. Like, why would Krishna take any interest in me? Because we've forgotten the quality of bhakti, that Krishna has tremendous interest in us. Krishna is not trying to get something from us. It's interesting, absorbed in self-satisfaction. Krishna is self-satisfied. So we would think that Krishna is self-satisfied. What does he need me for? But actually, Krishna is not moved to get anything from us. He's moved by love. And he's moved by his specific love for each and every one of us. And he's moved by our sincere endeavor to reciprocate that love with him. And so the hallmark of a devotee is that we have faith that Krishna does care about me. We have faith that Krishna is interested in my life. We have faith that Krishna is guiding me in every way, and that divine will is unfolding in my life. And Krishna loves me not because I do my service so wonderfully, not because I'm doing my sadhana so perfectly, not because I'm following all the rules or up to a certain standard, or I'm giving a certain amount of donations, or I'm whatever it is. There's no Krishna loves me because. Krishna loves me just because I'm me, because I'm part of him. And so devotees hold that faith that no matter how much I stumble, no matter how much I maybe fall off the wayward path, no matter how much I feel so much unworthy and below, Krishna pierces through all of that, and I love you just because. And it's beautiful. We've been reading and discussing the beginning of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in our Spirit Matters podcast with the Bhakti Center with the Chitta Gopi. Kishore's been out of town, so he hasn't joined us in a little while. We've been discussing the beginning verses of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What are the first verses of the Bhagavad Gita? Krishna is talking about, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to Vivishvan, the sun god, who in turn instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and this idea of parampara. Krishna talks about, over the course of time, the science becomes lost. The science as it is becomes lost. And therefore I come to reestablish it, to redirect us, to put us back on track again and again and again and again. And so the idea of getting lost, the idea of falling off the wayward path, the idea of veering away from Krishna is normal, and it's historical, and it happens to the best of us. So we should not be surprised when we find ourselves struggling, when I find myself floundering, when I find myself wondering how I got here. It's normal. We're not disqualified because of the frequency with which we get lost, or confused, or wander away, or struggle, or stumble, or have a bad day, or a bad week, or a bad year, or seems like a bad season of life. Krishna is constantly there to redirect us. Krishna is constantly extending his hand out to us. And Krishna is, as love is defined, Ranat Swami quotes Anandamayi, love is everlasting forgiveness. And so Krishna is always there for us. And so the devotees are constantly seeking to find the hand of Krishna in their life. They're constantly inviting that hand of Krishna in their life. And so when the Nagapatnis here say, your devotees can understand you in this way, we should recognize ourselves that I want to understand Krishna in this way. I want to search for God's hand in my life, and I want to see Krishna's existence, not just as the creator, not just as the God of everything, but as the Lord of my heart. I want to see Krishna's hand. I want to see Krishna show up specifically in my life. And miracles happen. Miracles happen in our lives when Krishna shows up in tremendous and beautiful ways. But to the non-devotees, you remain silent, absorbed in self-satisfaction. We don't have to say devotees and non-devotees so clear. I'm a devotee and I'm a non-devotee. I exhibit both qualities at various times, and I'm trying to shift the ratio more towards being devotee more often. And so one of the qualities that we're learning here from a devotee is that they see Krishna in every moment. They see Krishna's hand in everything. They look for God's presence in every situation of life. Okay. Would anybody like to share anything from that? Ask a question, share, give a reflection.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. We see this whole passage is about Kali has been toxic and offensive and disturbing others. And then there's so much endeavor on behalf of the Nagapatnis to ask for forgiveness, to ask for Krishna's mercy. And I'm having a personal experience of getting some feedback that I've offended someone, and I can't seem to figure out who has been offended and how to apologize and ask for forgiveness. So there's a passage in the Bible that says, if there's some disturbance between you and another devotee, don't bring your gift to the altar. First go and settle that. First go and like Ambarish and Durvasamud, first go back to the devotee who's been offended and apologize, acknowledge some, misbehavior, and then ask for forgiveness. Difference between apologizing and asking forgiveness, and then will that person forgive? And then it's resolved. So I'm really praying about this. How do I resolve this feedback that I've received that someone has been uncomfortable by something I've said? Find out who has said that and how to get to ask for forgiveness. So I'm struggling with that right now. I'm sure Krishna will work it out, and it's very profound and pulls on the heartstrings.
Jai.
Just sharing.
That's beautiful.
Thank
you for sharing. You said, I'm sure Krishna will work it out. That's the faith of a devotee. And we're all praying for you, Prabhu. That can get resolved. Thank you.
I'm actually under the impression that you're the one I've offended. So therefore I'm saying, good. There's an opportunity to appeal to the person who's been...
No offense on my part, Adipurush. It sounds a little mysterious that you have some feedback that you've offended someone, but you don't know who or what, and there's no further information. But you haven't offended me. I don't know if I got included in that conversation, but no offense on my part. If you can check me off the list of suspects of people that you may have offended.
You're the only one I've heard from so far.
Okay, we're going to move on because it sounds like we're diverting towards something other than what we're discussing here in Srimad Bhagavatam.
I would like to add a comment.
Angelika has her hand raised.
Please.
Yes. Hare Krishna, sorry, I didn't change my name.
Ananda Manjari, yes, I see you.
Yeah, I want to just say it's beautiful to hear that, in a way, to have the permission to be lost and to almost have this acceptance of already knowing that this is very likely to happen, and it happens, and it's been happening, and it will happen. And I feel like it just brings me this sense of hope of, in a way, releasing this expectation to be perfect, which is of course impossible, but also to allow and to take more risks, which can result in making mistakes, but also trusting that I will be guided back into the balance or into closer connection with devotees and Krishna this way.
Yeah. Beautiful, thank you. This is the verse from Bhagavad Gita. These are the verses from Bhagavad Gita. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivishwan, and Vivishwan instructed to Manu, father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed in Vakru. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. And there it is again. It just comes up again and again and again and again, that you can understand. It's there in the verse we read from Bhagavatam. Your devotees can understand you in this way. Because you are my devotee, as well as my friend, can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. It's just over and over and over and over again that Krishna is letting us know that we are never, it's sort of interesting. It's like, when Srila Prabhupada was a young man, he was a Gandhian, and he was a fan of and a follower of Gandhi, who was standing up against the British Raj to create Indian independence. And he even made the argument to his guru, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that how can we be trying to spread Bhagavad Dharma? How can we be trying to share Krishna consciousness when we're under, how can we talk about spiritual independence when we're under the thumb of the British rule? We need to first establish ourselves as an independent nation, and then we will be positioned to share Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that bhakti is not dependent upon any material factor. If that were true, then bhakti would be dependent upon material circumstances. I need this, that, or the other in order to practice bhakti. I need this, that, or the order in order to develop in my Krishna consciousness. And so Bhaktisiddhanta was like, first establish Krishna consciousness and everything will come from that. And so the idea that I don't need anything to practice bhakti. I don't need anything to give my heart to Krishna. I don't need to like fix my life up before I'm able to make an offering to Krishna, before I'm able to give myself to Krishna, before I'm able to turn towards Krishna. I just need to become Krishna's devotee. And Prabhupada had this when he was sharing Krishna consciousness. He said there are certain things that can only be understood by devotees. So let people become a devotee. Invite them to a program, and what do? We chant kirtan, we have prasadam, we share katha. So now, okay, everyone's a devotee now. They're doing devotional activities. Now, in that environment, we can understand things. And so Prabhupada would just give people a devotional lifestyle, because when we practice devotional lifestyles, the teachings of Krishna consciousness become revealed to us. Because you're my devotee as well as my dear friend. Bhakto, Krishna says, Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Bhakto means devotee, sakha means friend. There is, I think, in the 9 processes of devotional service. What are the 9 processes of devotional service? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Samaram, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. That there are various personalities who are attributed to those 9 processes, who exemplify them. Shukadev Goswami in terms of Kirtanam, sharing, Pariksha Maharaj in terms of hearing, Shravanam. Arjun, I believe, I was going to say Arjun Prabhu, he'll be back with us in a couple of weeks, him also. But Arjuna, the warrior, exemplifies friendship, from what I understand. Sakha, he's a friend of Krishna. And so when we become Krishna's friend and Krishna's devotee, everything becomes revealed to us. And we don't need anything material in order to become Krishna's friend and devotee. We're already Krishna's friend and devotee. We just need to remember. Ananda Manjari, did you put your hand up again?
Yes, I have a question about what you just mentioned.
Please.
About the statement that bhakti is not dependent on any material qualifications.
Nope.
And I'm curious about how are we applying this statement without also kind of checking out of the material necessity that we also carry as living in the material world.
Beautiful question. I think I understood it, but can you just state it one more time just to make sure I really got it? I think that's a really beautiful question.
Could you tell me what you understood and I can correct you?
Well, what I think I understood is that bhakti doesn't depend on any material factor. So, how do we still remain as responsible human beings in the material world that have various material duties and responsibilities, whether it's in our families or in our occupations or in our communities, and not just check out and be like, I don't have to do anything because bhakti is the highest truth and that's all we got to do, and it doesn't depend on anything material, so I don't need to worry about my job or my family or any responsibilities. I can just sort of check out and still be a devotee.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. It's great. And that was Arjuna's question, right? That was Arjuna's question again and again in the Bhagavad Gita. He was confused. Chapter 4 is right in between chapters 3 and 5 of the Gita. You don't need to be a mathematician to figure that out. But in the beginning of chapter 3 and the beginning of chapter 5, Arjuna asks the same question of like, why are you asking me to engage in spirituality? Why are you asking me to engage in my occupation if at the same time you feel that spirituality is the highest, truth, if bhakti is the highest reality, if you want me to be living a life of devotion, engaging in buddhi yoga, higher intelligence. And so, there was... I was just in India, and our good friend Danya was there, and she led we were at GEV, and we had there were various groups there, and many of the groups came together for various Mahasanghas and classes, and she led a workshop about relationships, and talking about how, in many ways, bhakti, our spiritual life, is developed in the context of our relationships in the material world. It's where we learn the art and the principles of devotion by practicing it in real time in this world, where our ego gets chipped away, where our character gets developed, where we learn how to forgive, where we learn how to serve selflessly, where we learn how to not put ourselves in the center. And I think that in relationships as well as in our occupations, that's why Krishna again and again is encouraging Arjuna to live out his occupation, because that is the format in which we can express our bhakti. That is the format in which we can discover the things we need, because we still have a lot of shedding of material layers to do. We all got a lot of shedding of material layers to do. And our dharma in this life has been laid out for us in order to help us shed those layers. And so sometimes in isolation, we don't learn the things about ourselves we need to in order to grow. We don't. So it's interesting. Rupa Goswami gives the definition of pure bhakti. There are 6, and it's here. I think it's here in the chat. Maybe somebody wrote them down. Did somebody write them down? Yeah, 6 qualities of pure bhakti. Well, they're listed in a certain way. Let's go ahead and look them up. 6 qualities of pure bhakti, Rupa Goswami. Yeah. Here they are. 6 qualities of Rupa. It's here in the Nectar of Devotion. Rupa Goswami gives 6 unique features of pure bhakti. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material desires, Klesh Agni. Pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness, Shubhada. Pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. I think that's Prabhupada's, puts one in transcendental pleasure. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Those in pure devotional service deride even the concept of liberation. And pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but pure devotional service attracts even him. This means that pure devotional service is even transcendently stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's internal potency. I want to go back and find where the actual verse is. Let me see if I can find the actual verse. Klesh Agni, yes, Shubhada. There it is, because I want to look at the actual verse. Here it is. Klesh Agni Shubhada Moksha Lagudukrit Surdurlabha Sanjananda Vishesh Atma Shri Krishna Karshani Chasa. So this is the actual verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Rupa Goswami wrote. And the reason I wanted to get the verse, because they're written in a very specific order. And it's related to your question, my dear Ananda Manjari, and I hope I'll get to it in a second. The unique characteristics of bhakti are, because Srila Prabhupada changed the order a little bit when he wrote it there in the Nectar of Devotion. But the order here, it's ability to destroy suffering, it's an ability of bestow of auspiciousness. So when Rupa Goswami defines bhakti in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he then therefore breaks it down into 3 categories: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. Sadhana bhakti, Srila Prabhupada translates as devotional service in practice. It's where we are doing the activities of bhakti in order to invoke bhakti in our heart. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushvam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhakti Aprayachati, that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, and water, I will accept it. What if I don't have love and devotion, but I want love and devotion? Well, then you offer that leaf, flower, fruit, or water, or whatever you do, you offer it and give it away to me. And do it in a spirit of devotion, in a mood of begging for devotional service, and then Krishna will bestow it upon you through that activity, through that sincere endeavor, because bhakti is independent. Bhakti is not it's not a vending machine where I put in the activities and out comes bhakti. But bhakti is awarded to us by Krishna. It's inherent to who we are, but it is awakened by Krishna's mercy and by Krishna's grace. And so, and we awaken that bhakti through the activities of bhakti. That is sadhana. It's the means and the goal. And so there's sadhana bhakti. Bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti is an intense, Prabhupada translated as devotional service in pure ecstasy. And so it's like described as the first ray of prema. But there are still some traces of anartas in the heart, even in the stage of bhava bhakti. But it's very, very, very advanced devotional service. And then when all anartas are completely mitigated from the heart, we enter into the stage of prema bhakti, which Prabhupada translated as devotional service and pure love of Godhead. So those three stages and these 6 qualities relate to those various 3 stages. So there are 6 qualities given here. And Rupa Goswami and our acharyas describe that the first 2, its ability to destroy suffering and its bestowal of auspiciousness, relate to sadhana bhakti. Then as we grow and we attain bhava bhakti, the next 2 qualities develop. It's disregard for liberation. I'm no longer seeking liberation because the idea of it sounds putrid and in the face of bhakti. And it's rarity of attainment. And then the last 2 qualities are related to prema. It's manifestation of concentrated bliss, Sandrananda Visheshatma, and its ability to track Krishna, Sri Krishna Karshini. So those are qualities that are reserved for pure devotional service in prema. So, devotional service, bhakti has a spectrum of purity, a spectrum of intensity. And even within prema bhakti, there are various levels that are described, not in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu so much, but in further books of our acharyas. And the reason we don't study them so much because it's just like, who of us is really in prema bhakti that really it's relevant to understand those various subdivisions of prema bhakti. But even in Vrindavan, that's why we say there's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. It's not one is better than the other, but Prabhupada would translate as perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. And so we know that of all the residents of Vrindavan, the gopis of Vrindavan have the most intense, deep love for Krishna. Of all the gopis of Vrindavan, Radharani is the queen with the most intense love for Krishna. And so even within bhakti, there's pure bhakti, but then there's even greater intensities of that bhakti. So we want to grow. All of us have bhakti inherent in our soul, and all of us can turn to Krishna and perform bhakti at any given moment. It's not dependent on anything material, but we want to deepen in that bhakti. We want to dive into that ocean and swim in it. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the unlimited, immortal ocean of devotional service and relationship in that bhakti. And Krishna's given us but a drop. And I want to dig a well. I want to dive into the ocean and swim deep. And so therefore, the circumstances that we have in this life that we've been given are personally carved out for us. And Krishna says, stand up and fight, O son of Bharata. Because that is your dharma in this life. And through that process, you will advance in spiritual life. You will come closer to me through that. And so when we check out or run away or escape from our material duties, we sometimes miss out on the ways in which Krishna is trying to bring us closer to him, because we've got a lot of shedding to do. We've got a lot of growing to do. We've got a lot of developing in spiritual life to do. We're on the path, but we haven't completed the path. And the path never completes, because bhakti is eternal and we're constantly developing and moving forward. And so we don't want to become complacent We don't want to miss out. We don't want to skip out, and we don't want to cut corners. And so we start to see our material life and material responsibilities as our service in this life and as the way in which I can put into practice. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would tell us, Trinada pisunichina, torora apisahishtunna, amanida manidina, kirtaniya sadahari. One should be more humble than a blade of grass, tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and offer all respect to other living beings. Where else are you going to get an opportunity to do that other than engaging with the world in a mood of devotion? And then what is the result? Kirtaniya sadahari. You can perform kirtan constantly because you develop taste, you develop ruchi. What are the stages of bhakti as described by Rupa Goswami in the same Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? There is shraddha, first a little bit of faith, and then there is sadhu sangha. You start associating with devotees, and then bhajana kriya. You start doing the activities of bhakti. Doing the activities of bhakti. You still don't have ruchi yet, you still don't have nishta yet, you still don't have asakta or bhava or prema. You don't have those things, but you're doing bhajana kriya. You're doing the activities of devotional service, so that you can then start to move towards, and what happens when you start performing the activities of devotional service? Anarchana vritti. You start to realize, all the crud that's in this drawer that I've kept closed for so long. And so the bhajana kriya, the sadhu sangha and the bhajana kriya leads to anarchana vritti, where I start to clean out all those anarthas in the heart. And I start to move through my sadhana into bhava, into prema. Eventually. And then once we work through anarchana vritti, then we start to get a little bit of ruchi, which is taste. And that ruchi develops into asakta, which is like attachment, like addiction to Krishna's love and devotional service. That ultimately leads to bhava and leads to prema. So in that way, we have to, we face what Krishna's given us in our life because it's his own customized school of love that he's provided for us. Okay, beautiful question. I only got 5 minutes left, and I got a couple more verses I got to read because otherwise Ananda Bihari is never going to invite me back again to give class. Okay, Hare Krishna, 10:16. Oh, there's purports too. Hare Krishna. I'm going to skip the Sanskrit and just read the translations and purports. Obeisances unto you, who know the destination of all things, superior and inferior, and who are the presiding regulator of all that be. You are distinct from the universal creation, and yet you are the basis upon which the illusion of material creation evolved, and also the witness of this illusion. Indeed, you are the root cause of the entire world. So they are explaining Krishna as this all-pervading, superior, supreme personality Godhead. The words purport, the words para and avara indicate superior, subtle elements, and inferior, gross ones. The words also indicate superior personalities, devotees of the Lord, and inferior personalities, who are unaware of the glories of God. Lord Krishna knows the destiny of all superior and inferior entities, animate and inanimate, and as the supreme absolute truth, he remains in his unique position above everything, as indicated by the word sarvad, sarvadya, kshaya. So again, there's this idea of Krishna being the supreme person and various people knowing and not knowing him. Devotees of the Lord who understand Krishna, and inferior personalities who are unaware of the glories of God. Okay, 10:1649. O Almighty Lord, although you have no reason to become involved in material activity, still you act through your eternal potency of time to arrange for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe. There it is again, Krishna's self-satisfaction. It's got no reason to be here. Radha and Muralidhar are sitting on the altar. We're going to take darshan in a second. They're not here for the New York pizza. They're not here for the Broadway shows. They're not here for the weather. They're here simply because they care about us, because they love you, and because they're waiting for you to come and to serve them, because that is your path back home. So it's got no reason. It's got no reason other than just because he loves you. You do this by awakening the distinct functions of each of the modes of nature which before the creation lie dormant. Simply by your glance, you perfectly execute all these activities of cosmic control in a sporting mood. Purport. Skeptics may question why the Supreme Lord, just look at how many verses ago, one verse left, has created the material world, which is full of birth, maintenance, and death. Here the Nagapatnis point out that the Lord's pastimes are amoga, beyond any discrepancy. Amoga means spotless. Sri Krishna actually desires that all the conditioned souls live with him in this eternal kingdom. There it is. But those forgetful souls who are inimical to the loving relationship with God must go to the material world and be subjected to the conditions of time. The fortunate conditioned souls are startled into remembrance of their actual position as loving servants of the Lord. And from within the heart, the Lord then encourages them to come back home, back to Godhead, where time is conspicuous by its absence, and where eternal, blissful existence supersedes the dramatic but disturbing functions of cosmic creation and annihilation. There it is. There it is, seeing the hand in Krishna in everything. Seeing Krishna's hand in this material world. Seeing Krishna calling us back at each moment. How is Krishna calling me back to him in this moment? How is Krishna bringing back to me in this moment? How is Krishna's hand? Where can I find Krishna in this moment? Devotees are on the eternal, constant, persistent treasure hunt of finding Krishna in each and every moment. Last verse. 1650. Therefore, all material bodies throughout the three worlds, those that are peaceful in the mode of goodness, those that are agitated in the mode of passion, and those that are foolish in the mode of ignorance, are all your creations. Still, those living entities whose bodies are in the mode of goodness are especially dear to you, and it is to maintain them and protect their religious principles that you are now present on the earth. Also, Krishna mentions in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, whenever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharat and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. So Krishna is mentioning here, to maintain and protect their religious principles, you now are present on this earth. Interesting fun fact, and I'll mention this here before we finish, when Adipurusha was mentioning that comment about like the Nagapatnis begging for Krishna to forgive and give mercy to Kalaya's serpent, what they didn't realize is that he was already giving him his mercy. That by standing on his head and dancing on his hoods, Krishna had given him already his supreme mercy. That when Krishna sucked the life out of Putana, he bestowed upon her his mercy and gave her the highest benediction of being a maidservant of Vrindavan. That even when it seems like Krishna is giving us the tough love, that's also his mercy, because any contact with that supreme personality of Godhead is wonderful, magnanimous, and beautiful. And so Krishna was already giving them his mercy, and Krishna is constantly showing us his favor if we have the eyes and devotion to see it. Premanjana charuti bhakti vilochanena, Brahma prays in the Brahma Samhita, that the devotees of Krishna, their eyes are tinged with the salve of love, and therefore they see everything through the lens of Krishna's mercy on me. Other chats here. Yes, Ananda Manjari. Radha Muralidhar is here because they love us. Jeffrey Ackler, how wonderful Krishna. He's quite wonderful. Ananda Manjari, Krishna's tough love is also his mercy as he's conduct with all of us. These are the notes. Yes, as indicated by your note emoji. Thank you all so much. Really, really grateful for all of you. It's 8:01. I've gone over, but I don't know if the darshan is ready for us or not. I will now shut my mouth and open up for any questions, comments, or if darshan is ready, we will take darshan of the beloved, merciful Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar Gaur Chandra. Who's here? Just because they love you, Jeff.
Do they just love Jeff or everybody?
I think there's probably something special about Jeff that drives Krishna a little more crazy than others.
Definitely.
But don't let that discourage anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful class. This was the fastest speaking Dayal Gauranga Prabhu that I've ever heard. Very excited when he talks about bhakti, this nectar of devotion, beautiful program. It's very inspiring to see your excitement for bhakti. And very hope-giving class also. Everybody appreciated your line, how we all have a lot of shedding to do. And I was thinking of Nagapatnis, that's what snakes do, they shed. And I was thinking, Nagapatnis in my heart, we all have our internal Nagapatnis, internal Kaliyas. And sometimes we even have an external Nagapatni. I have one right here in the room, my good wife, Chinmay Radha. She's my external Nagapatni, always praying for me, eager to send corrections. So, yeah.
That's such a sweet, sweet, sweet meditation. And we have our kaliyas in the heart and shedding like a snake sheds the skin. That's a really, really beautiful, beautiful meditation. Thank you so much. How is our darshan time? Do we have darshan now? Are they waiting for us? Or are we waiting for them?
We're waiting for the.
Oh, I hear a conch shell. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.
I don't know, put us in the donation box. The other way, the other way.
Yeah.
Jai Shri Shri Radha ki jai.
Okay, this was it. Thank you very much, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Great class. This is the afterglow. If you'd like to share or reflect, we can do a few.
Thank you. I have to run, but I'm so grateful for all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Okay, Jamuna Jaya, what do you got?
I put it in the chat, but as you see, I'm on the move, and it was the perfect class because what he was saying about that our real life gives us the opportunity to actually live bhakti. And I've just been away for 2 weeks, like soaking in everything. And as I was doing stuff this morning, it was like, even though I love my work, I was like, I don't want to go out. I just want to sit here and read and chat and do what I've been doing for 2 weeks and stay in my apartment. But so it was the kick in the pants. I really needed to like get out there because it is, it's like we always say, people say you can love God, but people you're not so sure about. And you can sit and be all pious in your home before the sun rises, but the rubber meets the road when I'm about to get in a subway and, and see all sorts of things. So it was the perfect thing for me to hear this morning in my re-entry back from the Dham. So once again, how wonderful is Krishna that he gave me what I needed this morning to get going. And I missed you all so much. I listened after the fact. So, but I'm just so happy to be back in person. So, Hare Krishna.
We missed you, Jamuna Jaya. And I'm sure Krishna will provide you with wonderful experiences transferring from the Dham into the subway.
Yes. Here we go. Hare Krishna.
That's a devotee. The devotee goes out always. So, all right. Who do we got? We got Bhima Prabhu, Andrea Draupadi, and Prema and Preeti. Does Prema live up to her name? Is she
yes, very loving?
Nice. Amrita Kishori, Immortal Kishori is here. William G. Are you waiting for the bus, William? No bus. Okay. Bhima Prabhu.
No, we're walking. We're walking to school.
Walking to school. Nice, nice. Cheska, with Cheska? You walking Cheska to school? Cheska, morning. Okay. Amrita Kishori's friend is there. A devotee cat. Hare Krishna. Okay. All right.
Yes. Thank you very much. Very good class. We love you.
Thank you, Adipusha. We love you. You are forgiven already. Whatever happened, I'm sure you are forgiven. All right. Yeah. A lot of pets. Is that Rocky in the back, Bhima Prabhu? Is that Rocky? I see the blue blanket. That's Rocky. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nagapatnis ki jai. Come again tomorrow. Like it was said in class, bhakti is a never ending, love is a never ending. It was said forgiveness, but it's never ending everything. Bhakti is just never ending. It's a never ending bus. Never ending bhakti bus. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.